Hey.
Did you see who's speaking at the next WMOA?
Oh, yeah. They want to introduce, she's only going to be a part of it, but I think they just wanted to, with the HR?
Yes.
Yeah, they just want to introduce her.
Jason, maybe you can get a business card made up.
Those
Charged with governance.
Charged with governance.
Jason Klein, charged with governance.
Not charged with anything else.
Exactly.
Bat phone.
Hi. All right, thank you.
New ring.
You get a new phone there? You ready?
It looks new.
And
It's
not
new-
quite
it's new-
yet.
It looks
Almost there.
newish.
Should have the 24. Right?
Yeah, they are all the new phone. We got new phones.
All right. Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good evening. Tonight's Tuesday, October 24th. It's 8 o'clock. Apologize for the late start. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Well, we have it all solved now, so we're good to go. So the first item on our, we just came from executive session where we discussed non-union compensation. First item on our agenda is our audit report. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, all. My name is Scott Oling. I'm a partner with PKF O'Connor Davies. I'm joined tonight by Carolyn Koff, who was the manager in charge of the day-to-day work on the audit with Trish and the finance folks and Chris as well. And we have a very brief presentation. It's about a dozen slides or so. I'm going to have Carolyn take you through the wordy communication part that we have to do, and then I'll take you through some of the highlights of the what happened financially in the village. This is all for the fiscal year that ended May 31st, 2023. Carolyn.
So the first slide is our responsibilities as auditors, which is ensuring that you are following GAAP and any laws and regulations that coincide with that. Along with any internal control deficiencies that we would find during the audit, which there were none. We also look to make sure that accounting policies and applications are being followed, which they were.
If I can go, try and speak into the microphone if you don't mind.
And the last thing on this slide is indicating any fraud or illegal acts that we found. We did note one attempted ACH wire fraud, which the village was able to cover entirely. Next slide is management's responsibility, which is pretty much the same except for following and enforcing everything. And then most importantly to us is providing all of the financial records and related information, which Trish and her office are always great at doing and a pleasure to work with. The next one is your responsibilities and management's, which are just communicating with us and overseeing all the financial activity throughout the year, as well as setting the proper tone at the top. And the final one, and maybe the most important, is that the village did receive an unmodified opinion, which is also known as a clean opinion. And as I noted before, there were no internal control deficiencies, and all the estimates and judgments that the finance office uses were deemed appropriate for us, and there were no unresolved matters or any disagreements with management throughout the audit.
Now I get to do the juicy stuff. So here come the numbers,
Or so vanilla.
which is really the most important part. So this is a very, very high-level summary of the general fund activity for the year ended May 23. More detailed information, of course, is in the full audit report. So the first line are the revenues that support the village's operations, and you could see from both the original budget and some amendments that are made during the year to that original adopted budget, you anticipated revenues of approximately $23 million from a variety of sources like property taxes and state aid and county sales tax and various charges for services, fees, parks programs, those kinds of things. So the good news is when you look in the third column under the actual results, you took in just over $25.1 million. So the variance in the last column shows a positive $1.8 million. You did 1.8 million more in revenues than you thought you were going to do. Very good news. That really came from about 3 or 4 areas. Sales tax. So you get distributions from the county for its sales tax. Sales tax, we audit the county. Sales tax was way up for the county. So your share of that goes up. They share about 25% or so of the sales tax they collect with the school districts and all the municipalities in the county, except the big cities like New Rochelle and Yonkers. They have their own sales tax deal. So your sales tax this year was up about $700,000. Compared to budget. You had estimated about 1.9 million, you took in about $2.6 million. Another big area where you did much better than budget was interest income. Obviously, when this budget was adopted, interest rates were still near zero, and a year later, interest rates are at the highest they've been in 15 years or so forth. So you did about $340,000 better than budget in interest income. You collected about $420,000 versus an estimate of about $80,000. You also took in FEMA money for some various damages and things over the past. You didn't budget any money for the FEMA, and it came in at about $350,000. And then lastly, you also took in police fees for various services that the police department performs, usually for private, entities like a Verizon or Con Ed or something like that. You had estimated about $310,000. That came in at about $450,000. So you did about $142,000 better than your plan. So that's, a big story as to why revenues came in about $1.8 million better than you expected. So that's part one. The next line is expenditures, what you planned on spending the money on. And again, you anticipated spending approximately $23 million. And you could see you actually did spend about $22.5 million. So you only have about a $700,000, savings in the budget. So the spending side of the budget to me is relatively tight. It's within, I think, 2.5% to 3%, of what you estimated.
3.09.
3.09. There you go. See?
But who's counting?
But who's counting?
There was some savings, in the police department. You expected to spend about $4.5 million, spent about $4.4 million. There was some savings in sewer district costs, about $90,000. And then, the rest of it is just spread throughout the budget. So it's a really tight budget. When you come within, 2 or 3% of a $24 million budget, that's pretty good. Going down a little further on this page, there's a line called transfers out. This is money that each year you move to your capital projects fund. Each year you budget to do, somewhere around $1.5 million worth of capital projects that you do without borrowing money. Smaller type projects, but rather than borrowing money and incurring now higher interest costs, you're doing that from, your operating budget essentially each year. And we'll see what you're doing again in 2024 when we get to the next slide. So when you look at the bottom of the first 2 columns, you see a negative $1.4 million. So when you adopted this budget for this year, you expected to spend $1.4 million more than you were going to take in. Most of that came from what we call appropriating fund balance, which is what you did each year. You set up money to transfer to capital. You use some of it for debt service purposes to help offset some of the debt service costs. So that's really what the $1.4 million is. The good news, though, in the actual column, the third number up from the bottom, is not only did you not deplete fund balance, but you actually added, you could see $1.1 million, primarily driven by the really positive revenue results. So that's what you see. The variance in the last column on that line is $2.6 million. You did $2.6 million better than your plan. If you came in on plan, fund balance would have gone down $1.4 million. Not only did it not go down $1.4 million, but it went up $1.1 million. So that's very good. you started the year with, as you could see, about 10.6 million in fund balance to start the year. So you ended the year with $11.7 million in fund balance. So now on the next slide is how we allocate that 11 million of fund balance, because it's not just one number. Hey, we got 11 million of fund balance. Let's party. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that. So you see the 11.7 is all the way at the bottom in the first column, and fund balance is made up of different slices of pizza or slices, pots, different buckets of money. There's a very small amount of the 11 million in the first group called non-spendable fund balance, and it basically means what it says. You really can't spend it. It's $34,000, mostly in prepaid items, so you're paying for stuff that was really benefiting next fiscal year, but the cash went out the door before the fiscal year started, so we kind of lock up that money as non-spendable. The next area is restricted fund balance. So these restrictions, are generally established by, the village board. None of these can happen without village board approval. And the biggest piece that's in this is $1.5 million is the debt service components. So you have essentially almost $1.1 million available to help offset future debt service costs for 24-25 fiscal year and beyond. And what you did was you used $300,000 in your 23-24 budget that you're in. So you use that to provide tax relief, and you're using some of your savings to help pay the debt service that is due this year on all your outstanding debt. And then you also have $188,000 set aside for the playing field, for future renovations there. So you got 1.5 million of the total, 11.7 million is restricted for those purposes. The next section is what's called committed. So you folks on the board have committed this money in the future to be used for capital projects. So you have the first number, the 1.5 million, is available for years beyond 23-24. And what you did was you used 1.2 million in the budget you're in now in 23-24. So you're going to be transferring this money in the year you're in now to the capital fund to do the projects that you earmarked this year. That's the $1.2 million. You then have some money assigned, which is basically for open purchase orders that were not completed at May 31st. So those just roll over and amend the budget you're in right now, probably all spent already, 65,000. So what that basically means is your free and clear fund balance that's not earmarked for anything is about $7.2 million. So again, on a budget of, approaching $25 million, you're looking at about 30%, unless you have the exact amount. I don't have the exact amount. Not sure that one. So 7.2 million, for this size budget is a very healthy fund balance. It's there for emergencies. Obviously, there's always stuff going on here with flooding and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very strong fund balance position to be in. So very, very good results. That number's up about $660,000 from that same number last year. So again, as I mentioned, you added about 1.2 million in total fund balance. 660,000 was added to this unassigned portion. You had about 400,000 more in the committed for capital projects portion, and you had about 90,000 more in restricted fund balance, and that's kind of how we get to what happened this year. So now, just to wrap up some of the financial numbers, just to show you at May 31st, you had outstanding debt, both short-term debt and long-term debt. Short-term debt in the form of what we call bands, bond anticipation notes. And in that first chart, you see that you have 3 bond anticipation notes, essentially. It's really under one, but it's broken out into 3 different purposes. There was money for sanitary sewer improvements, the aerial fire truck, and then various other miscellaneous capital projects that you borrowed on a short-term basis. You have what the interest rates were, and at the end of the year, you had about $1.7 million outstanding, and I believe this ban was renewed in the current year for about $1.1 million as you continue to make pay downs on that outstanding debt. And then from a long-term perspective, you have essentially two bonds out there. They're all from the same year back in 2018, an A bond and a B bond. The B bond was for tax certiorari's, the big tax cert that hit in 2018 that affected the village and the school. That one had has a 10-year life, so you're halfway through that one, has a balance of $830,000, and then for, various big capital projects from, the 2018 timeframe, there is still about $12.6 million remaining on that. These are fixed interest rates, which now in the current interest rate environment are looking pretty good. So,
And that was
they
mostly
are.
the Public Works garage, Public Works and
Yeah.
Parks garage.
Yeah, we got that in at the right
The
time.
14 million.
right. And that bond, because of the life of the project, that were funded by it, goes all the way out to 2048. So it's a 30-year bond.
So the bans are,
Bans are 1 year,
right,
so you renew them each year.
thank you.
And, the interest rates obviously fluctuate with the market rates, each year. So obviously the interest rates are a little higher now than, if you looked at these bands 2 years ago, they were probably under 1%, right?
Yeah.
I guess we couldn't
Yes.
convert them, huh?
The next slide really has no effect on anything, but it's in your financial statement. It's not really part of the general fund, but we have to report elsewhere in the financial statement what we call other post-employment benefit liability is, or OPEB liability. This is an actuarial calculation that takes a present value of your future benefit obligations to provide health insurance to your retirees. So that calculation includes if you have a 25-year-old employee, and they stay here for 30 years and they're going to get a retirement health benefit, what the health insurance will cost in 30 years, and present valued back to today. So they estimate that the village's liability at May 31st is $59 million. It can't be funded, not like the pension plan where you send money to the state pension plan and they have billions in assets to pay retirement. Right now, New York has no mechanism other than pay as you go. So you get the bill each month, you pay the health insurance. But maybe someday the state will allow, entities to set up like an irrevocable trust. And if you have leftover money somehow at the end of a given year, you'd be able to put money in a trust, let it, be invested, let it grow, and it would help pay, health insurance down the road for retirees. So, just a thought. So, lastly, again, just communicating some internal control matters. There are 3 levels as auditors we have to look at. The lowest level are like miscellaneous type low-level control deficiencies that we find, so we just provide information on that. If you move up to the next level for significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, those are really bad things. If you're doing things, in the accounting function that are not good, and thankfully we've not reported anything in those categories to you. And with that, I think that pretty much ends an hour presentation, so I guess we'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Is anybody, it has nothing to do with our audit, I'm thrilled with it. We are so lucky to have Chris and the rest of our managers who make this look easy, and we know it's not. So,
It is not.
would you say that we're in great shape?
Yes, you guys are in very good financial shape here, yes.
And I'm gonna mention Trish and her team, who are
Yeah.
just rock stars in these areas. They just do a
Yeah,
great
the
job
treasurer.
keeping our finances in check, and also just thinking out of the box and just really trying to shore everything up in every way possible. So thanks to Trish, thanks to her whole team. They just do a great job day in and day out. So thank you.
But I'm sure not everybody looks this good.
No. No.
Great
Definitely
job.
not.
We're
Want to
very,
share with us if it doesn't?
That would be executive session.
That being said, is there any kind of lobbying to the the state government to allow that kind of mechanism going forward?
I think,
Because that seems like a logical step.
I think there was legislation many, many years ago, maybe Chris remembers, I think it was around 2008 or 10 to set something up again, maybe on a statewide basis to allow municipalities to put money in like they do for the pension. You know, the state has
State
billions
does
of
it,
dollars
right?
in pension
Yeah.
money to do it for health insurance. Other states do it. I know Connecticut, some of the municipalities have, you know, these trust funds. You know, obviously once you put the money in it, there's no getting it back if you
Right.
start
but
running
you have
into
to pay for
financial
it anyway.
problems. But you're going to pay for it anyway. I think there was potential legislation a decade or
Yeah.
plus ago, and then the state ran into its fiscal crisis at that time, and it just never went anywhere.
Put the brakes on.
It just got dropped, you know, because municipalities, you know, didn't have any money.
Didn't have the
you
money
know,
to put
at
into
that
it
time
anyhow.
to do it anyway. You know,
So it could be an optional type thing.
yeah, it could be, you wouldn't have to put money in,
Right.
you know,
It would only
each
be
year
a-
if you didn't have it, but, you know, it's a way to save for future, because the idea is you're using current money. You know, if I'm not a 25-year-old, you know, employee here, I've earned 1/30th of that retirement benefit that you're gonna start paying me in 30 years, but it's a way to get essentially taxpayers today
To pay
who
for
are getting that, you know, who that person is doing the work for, pay for it, rather than
the future
the
ones.
taxpayer 30 years from now who never got the benefit of that employee's, you know, work. That's really the concept.
So just kind of tying a couple of items together, just to, if you don't mind,
Sure.
some of the things we look for is particularly, we are very leery of overtaxing. You want to overcharge, overcollect in terms of property taxes on residents. So we're very happy with the 3% staying within our estimates for our expenditures. We think that's really excellent. And the revenue side of it, we also like to stay, you know, 2 to 4% in general. So you look at those extra areas and say, okay, what's going on there? So obviously the police revenue was all the utility work, which we have an expense side to that as well. The FEMA is a reimbursement and from the prior year. You're not getting to get that again. That was just something that was just a lag in the payment really from FEMA and the paperwork. On FEMA's end, not on our end. Interest income, who expected that? And sales tax was higher. So, you know, those were all, you can look at it and explain and say, this all makes sense. And then what do? Then how we carry that forward to our budget is that money above our financial policies, we then designate for capital projects so that we've had this recurring amount while we still keep an adequate fund balance there. Excess fund balance above the policies then gets put into a designated for capital to make sure that those expenses, we can make sure we're reinvesting in our infrastructure. So that policy and procedures have held us well over the years. So, you know, we're pleased to see, and where we get additional revenue, that's what it'll be used for.
Very wise.
Great.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you for providing
You're
this, and I'll
You're welcome.
also back everyone else's words about how lucky we are to have Chris and Trish and everyone involved, because it really makes a big difference, you know, when you're trying to govern a municipality. You know, it really makes a big difference knowing that the structure is there and the people are in place to make sure that they're running a sound ship. Thank you.
We have
All right, so-
resolution.
You're right.
Move to
Yeah, I was gonna say,
resolution.
I'm gonna move right into the resolution before we get to our next, to our next report. And this is resolution number 1, considering approving the fiscal year 2022-23 audit report.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rye Brook Board of Trustees hereby approves the fiscal year 22-23 audit report provided by PFK O'Connor Davies.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I think it speaks for itself.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino? Yes. Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. All right, moving on to our second report, or second presentation. This is a Westchester Power Program update.
And we should mention, Mayor, that one of the reasons that Westchester Power keeps coming back is we've expressed to the residents, we want to make sure everyone's remaining. We said in the beginning, we want to keep people updated on the progress and what any of the where we are on Westchester Power, what the rates are, what your options are. So this is just a continuing educational program to tell people where we are at different points in the program.
Great. We appreciate that, and Dan, we appreciate you being here.
No, thanks for inviting and happy to do this. Earlier you indicated we don't need the big, intro with all the environmental, imperatives and all that. But just for program identification for people out in the audience, this is the
Do you mind moving the mic
oh,
close?
great.
Thank you.
This is the
Someone
bulk
mic.
purchasing program, if you will, that's participated in by Rybrook
He's on the
and
mic.
many other communities, and it's about driving renewable energy uptake, stabilizing rates, and providing a platform for building more programming in the clean energy space. The key characteristic of it is that it's an opt-out format, which basically means you're in unless you raise your hand to come out of it, and it should always be understood that as a fixed rate program, the savings aren't guaranteed because we don't know what the utility rate is going to be in the future. So, and again, Rybrook is one of 29 municipalities that are participating in the program, and there's about 145,000 residents and small businesses in it. So the current contract goes until the end of next year, well, till the end of October in next year, 2024. It's currently at 15.128 cents for the renewable energy option, which is the default product. Each community that participates picks a product to be the default, and again, in that opt-out scenario, taking no action puts you in the default product, but you can switch to the standard supply. That's 13.364 cents. And this just also for a little bit of additional context, I pulled out the numbers in terms of the number of accounts participating in Rybrook, and we get this month-to-month add drop report. So at the end of September, we're at about 2,600. In that, I went and grabbed the census for households in Rybrook is 3,377. So that's about 75% of the households, roughly. There's small business accounts in the program as well, but it's quite small in Rybrook. It's like less than 10 or something. You've seen this graph before. This is, or something like it. This is the history of the rates, and the blue bars are the utility rates. The horizontal bars are the Westchester Power rates. The lower one, of course, being the lower price standard rate, and the upper one being the renewable rate. What I wanted to do, though, is kind of give some context of why, what is all that noise of the up and down of the market here. And in the past, I think we've noted that the electricity pricing is generally driven by natural gas pricing. It's not the only thing out there, but it is the price setter for the market. So this curve, and you don't worry about the numbers on the left side. There's different units, but the movement of the market I've laid out over where the utility rates were, and you can see that as a matter of as we go along the curves there, in the initial part of the program when we first launched, doesn't look that stable, but that's relatively stable. It's not shooting up or downwards for as much as we've seen in recent times. And through that contract, we ended up doing pretty well in that. This few years later, we hit the fracking boom. You'll remember when all these wildcatters are out there drilling everywhere and anywhere, and the market just crashed. We had just signed a new contract, so we were kind of hanging out there above the market for a good period of time. More recently, in 2021, the end of 2021, we started seeing a big increase in exports of natural gas, and that's going out to markets where natural gas is like 3 times, many multiples the price that it is here in the United States. That's pulling the price up, and we're seeing these price rises, and they're starting to reflect in the electricity price markets. Not too long after that, you get the start of the Ukraine war, and now we've really got a mix there, and you're seeing those spikes, and you're seeing the market get a little crazy. And so this is the market we're in at that point when we're trying to secure a new bid. Remember, there was that gap there. That was the pause. We had set a target, and off the market goes, and we missed that. So that's how we got where we are today. And now the question is, so here we are. I'm sure people are trying to get some sense about where things are going. And the question of that for me is always basically we don't know. But here are the factors that come into play. And I pulled this out of the Constellation folks. They're the suppliers. They do a regular kind of economic market update thing. It's filled with all kinds of crazy graphs and all the rest of that. But this I thought was a good visual to just sort of get a sense of what's going on and what's affecting the price and what the anticipated movements are. The winter right now is supposed to be fairly mild. There's this El Nino phenomenon that's rolling up, and that tends to have a modifying effect on the temperatures. Economically, though, we are still fairly hot, and that's tending to drive things up. The production of natural gas is starting to drop back, however, because there's been some dropout of people with the low pricing, and also the storage has been up, so people are just slowing down now. And the storage is very high. When you have a high level of storage, that tends to depress the prices. Then you've got more things going on in the global situation, which throw that situation into confusion. You've seen oil prices start to head up, and obviously not the same as natural gas, but they are sort of fungible at some level, and they start to pull on each other. So that's tending to push prices up. And then again, on the production of the liquefied natural gas, that's tending to push the prices up as well, as there's a little bit of a constraint on that. So overall, their assessment was that there's in total there's still a pressure downwards on prices. So we're not expecting things to go wild, but that could change. When they talk about the weather, they're always hedging. You have some cold front or some blockage, and then all of a sudden things change. And of course, the global situation, who knows about that? So there's some level of uncertainty, but that's just a sense. Again, people participating in the program, they're going to have their own criteria. Obviously, number one for us is trying to increase the uptake on renewable energy, but people want to be able to think about these things in terms of the economics, where it's going, whether they should stay or not, trying to provide some sort of a background to that. Where's the graphic for that? There we go. So as we go forward, though, we're trying to think about those periods where we got hung out, far away from where the market is. And so one of the strategies that we're working on right now is to not stay out such a long term with a long contract, but to have essentially a fixed rate for a shorter time, like quarterly adjusted or every 4 months adjusted, and to do that by buying blocks of power that would sort of overlap with each other. And where's the rest of that? So that you would not be just buying everything at once for 2 years. So you break up your total load into pieces. You'd buy maybe a percentage of it at 3 months, a percent for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. After that first 3 months, you're into buying, you have to go out and buy another block there so that you cover your entire load. You can keep a little bit open so that you can, if there's a big drop in the price, you can pick up some opportunistic things that you couldn't do before when you're sitting there locked into a long contract. So we want to have an opportunity to both retain some stability. We're not on a daily variable rate. We're still locking in for a period of time, but we're not so inflexible that we can't respond to the market at some level. So this is what's, and this is just conceptual right now. and I'll get to what's going on and how we're trying to get there. So what this is going to do for us, and I'm calling it an ESCO services model. Maybe we'll change that term, but the idea is to contract with a firm that would serve as kind of the front end. It would be the ESCO of record. Right now we're signing up with a Constellation. It's just one fixed price, 2 years, 1 year, whatever it is. In this scenario, you sign up with a company that's going to give you visibility into those energy purchases that are going on under the hood and access to essentially the wholesale market. That'll give us more flexibility. It will, again, won't give us a chance to not get caught and with an unfavorable gap. It'll give us access to more suppliers essentially, because right now we need to find ESCOs that both have the capacity to serve our load, but also have the customer service capabilities and all that. That would all be with the service company. And again, we would have visibility into the purchase from wholesale suppliers who don't care about that part, but they're able to supply the energy. It would also potentially be a structure under which we would have the opportunity to develop new products. Particularly what comes to mind is time of use rates. That's something that's going to be more and more popular as we go forward, and that gives you the opportunity to incentivize people to, charge their car overnight and things like that. We can't do that now through, again, the kind of black box ESCO situation. If we have visibility into the elements of the underlying price, we have the chance to design rates like that. And further out, and this to me is almost more important, having this kind of structure gives us the ability potentially to purchase directly from generators and actually drive the construction of new facilities, right? Because it would be the same thing where there's the energy, we have to sleeve it in with the rest of the services and the customer service and the capacity purchases that have to happen, so it becomes a retail supply that you can then pass on to customers. You can't just buy from a generator and do that. So this structure not only would give us a response to today's sort of regular merchant purchases, but it also sets us up with the opportunity to go with the next step in terms of really driving renewable energy and going deeper green than we are now. And that could start with small scale pilot projects where, say 1 or 2 more aggressive municipalities start out and we've got just a limited number of facilities and we test that out. And then longer term, this would be the opportunity for us to actually bundle this together with new transmission capacity, which is desperately needed for Westchester County. And we've kind of been left out of the whole discussion about that because there's new stuff going into New York City. It's happening up in Albany, but everything's kind of bypassing us. So we need to use the leverage we have to try and move forward on that. So this, as I said, this model opens up this, the ability to work on those things going forward. And where does that stand now? We're actually waiting for another CCA administrator to finish the first contract negotiation under this format. We are pleased that they're going first because frankly they're putting in all the effort on the details and the legal details of fleshing out the new contract. Hopefully the new contract will look basically like our old contract, but the product piece, which is the end of the contract, which describes the products, will be changing. We'll have some of those mechanisms in it that we talked about. So we're looking to get a copy of that contract. Both the service company and the other ESCO have agreed to give that to us so that we can start looking at it, and then we can get to the point where in January or February we can go in front of all the boards and describe this with more certainty, because now it's been fleshed out, and hopefully we can get to the point where by the early spring we can be developing an RFP to go out and formalize that request, build the new contract final template, and the mechanism for participation. We usually have this MOU type structure that we do to get everybody on board. Maybe that changes a little bit relative to this new structure, I don't know. And hopefully to get contracted fairly early so that we can take advantage of timing with this structure. If we wait till just before the contract, then we are where we are right then in the market. But if we leave ourselves a few months beforehand, there could be some playing with the timing and trying to optimize the purchasing. So we're trying to move that along as fast as we can. So that's kind of that backdrop. I also want to, just for the audience and everybody's sake, as they're contemplating being in or opting out or changing supply, you can go to the Sustainable Westchester website and do those transactions. You can call us for the Con Ed area. It's extension 111. You can also email us. The first line there is if there's a refresh mailing or something like that to newly eligible customers, you're going to have the letter with the slip that you can mail back. That's a fourth way. So that was the quick update. So
You have a question?
Your
Great.
questions or
Thank you. Do we have?
I have
do you
two
a question?
questions.
Go ahead.
One, what is the timing if somebody does want to switch out? How long does that take?
it takes, we usually say 1 to 2 billing periods, because what happens is if your meter read date is just like 5 days later, it takes time for the transaction to pass through the supplier, and then kind of demands, I think, 5 business days for that turnover. So you're likely to not have it executed before your next meter read date. That means that you will start on the next meter read date.
Got
So
it.
you're going through that one term and then on the next term. But if you're lucky and there's, say, 10 days before your next meter read date, you
could
might
do it.
switch right at that time.
Okay.
That gets into the weeds, so we usually just tell people 1 to 2 billing periods.
Okay, and then somebody emailed me because they knew that you were coming tonight, and they wanted to switch and take advantage of a new water heater, and I think Con Edison told them that they can't get that credit because they get their gas delivery from somebody else. Is that accurate?
That's interesting. They get their gas delivery from somebody else. So you have to be getting gas from Con Ed in order to get this?
Or the supply, I don't know, but in other words,
I can't
I'm
say
not quite clear.
Who my colleagues, Lauren and the Energy Smart Homes might very well know that, though.
Okay, so how would I find them so I can answer this
Would you
person?
want to email me and I'll pass it on? I'm Dan at sustainablewestchester.org.
Okay,
And I would think they might have a sense of that because they're very tied into the gas moratorium and all the things that are going on and the incentives around that. So that would be surprising because gas is gas. I mean, they're trying to reduce the amount,
I would
so,
imagine
I don't
so, but that's what it looked
Yeah,
like.
Maybe.
And would that be legal, is my question.
Probably maybe it depends on like where the funds are coming from or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions?
Nope.
Comments? Thank you for coming to provide the update.
Sure.
We look forward to seeing the process as it moves forward.
Yeah.
Over the coming months.
I think it's really exciting. It's daunting, but to get where it's always important to have that ultimate where you're trying to get to in front of you.
Right.
I think this is something that we really need to.
It seems like a very interesting model that hopefully yields good results for the residents of Rye Brook and beyond.
Yeah.
Which group is leading that way first? Who's doing it
That's,
first?
that's Jewel Community Power.
Okay.
They've got CCAs all upstate and across the river and all this, and it's led by Mike Gordon, who used to be on the board at Sustainable Westchester.
Right.
And they're a commercial outfit. We're nonprofit, so there's like no competitive relationship. We're not going out the rest of New York to try and start CCAs or anything. We care about Westchester, so we create a lot of know-how and how to get these things done. It's helpful.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, folks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to resolution number 2, although I'm not seeing the resolution on mine.
You just have to refresh it, but I can read it.
Okay. Considering the appointment of an intermediate account clerk.
Okay. Now therefore be it resolved that a new George of 737 Tuckahoe Road, Unit 42, Yonkers, New York, is appointed to the position of intermediate account clerk with the Village of Rye Brook, subject to the civil service procedures of the state of New York in accordance with the conditional offer letter dated October 20th, 2023, and be it further resolved that the annual salary is $57,000 with an effective start date of November 8th and a delayed start date of November 13th, 2023.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Well, welcome. Why don't you come up? Yeah.
And while before you're making comments too, if I can, so Anu, we're very lucky to have her joining our team, and she has worked for Montefiore Health System in Tarrytown as a payroll analyst, and also for Westchester County as an HR audit clerk. So has some experience in government as well. So and other jobs as well. But thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and as you saw, we run a really tight ship here. As
There's
far
no
as
test
budgeting, so you're going to learn from the best, and we're really excited to have you joining us.
Thank you. Let me take this opportunity to thank you everyone for hiring me this position. I would like to thank Lawrence and Patricia for taking out the time to interview me, and especially the board for approving my appointment. Thank you so much. I'm excited to work here and looking forward to grow within the organization as well as to contribute towards the growth of the organization. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Congratulations.
All right. Questions, comments?
No, very good.
Let's make it official. Greg?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino? Yes. Mayor Klein?
Yes. I'd say congratulations, but I think Trish is already putting her to work.
I think so.
No rest for the weary. All right. Resolution number 3, considering setting a public hearing amending Chapter 240, Section 19.1 of the Village Code regarding prohibiting parking on parts of Sleepy Hollow Drive and Lawridge Drive.
For the third time.
Again. I was going to say again.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees shall hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 14th on the proposed local law, amending Chapter 240, Section 19, establishing no parking on school days from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and from 2 to 3:30 p.m. from September 1st to June 30th on the west side of Sleepy Hollow, from Dorchester Drive to North Ridge Street, and the north side of Lawridge Drive from Sleepy Hollow to a point 285 feet in an easterly direction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He lives on Sleepy Hollow.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, and you should have seen my reaction when Greg got my email when I saw this on the draft agenda. I was like, hold on a minute.
We saw this already.
This was supposed to be the public hearing. But, yeah, there
Well, we
was...
keep handing out letters to the residents, trying to keep them involved and letting them know. So Greg was going door to door for a while, and now he's mailing them.
So we will get to this. I
Yes.
promise.
I
So
can give you their emails if you need them. I know them.
Please do. That would be a lot easier than, again, going door to door or sending out mails.
I'll give you my friend Jane's, and you can she'll distribute.
Yeah. At least on the flip side, I've memorized all those the streets at this point.
any questions or comments on this?
No.
We've discussed it. We're just setting the public hearing. Okay. Did I get a motion? Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino? Yes. Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 4, considering declaring municipal vehicles as surplus for sale.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook has vehicles that are no longer of functional value or use to the village and may have a resale value, and whereas the vehicles being listed for surplus are still in service and the current mileage may change, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees declares the following vehicles listed below as surplus, with these items to be published in the official newspaper of the village and sold to the highest qualified bidder through an approved electronic bidding process with Auctions International. And there's a listing. There's a plow and salt dump truck, salter dump truck, 2 more of them. There's another one. They're all from the 90s pretty much at this point. There's also a Ford chassis with no dump body. And there's a sewer jet truck and a Spartan and a 1995 Spartan ladder truck. And be it further resolved that if no bids are received for a particular item, that the items may be disposed of through appropriate means. And be it further resolved the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second,
So
please?
moved.
Second.
We sure we want to get rid of that ladder truck?
I was gonna say, we
I
really
Well,
want to get
no,
rid of
it's,
everything.
The problem is it needs a lot of work that
Right.
exceeds what anyone's recommending that we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we get anything
It's,
for
well,
it?
No,
we're very sad.
We're going to find out. That's why we're surplusing it and putting it
Okay.
back out again.
We're
I
very
think
sad to see that truck.
Old
go.
reliable.
It has seen us through some difficult times.
Yep, it has. It
Especially right
definitely
after
has
Ida and
served us well.
when it had to come back into service and
Yep.
did so without
It's
without
old,
any
old reliable.
yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we get some good responses like the one we approved at the last meeting.
Yep,
That'd be nice.
that would be.
Any questions or comments?
No. Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. Thank you. Resolution.
Mayor, can I just mention something?
Yeah.
So it turns out from some of the one car that we got such a good price on, when we notified the DA's office apparently on those types of vehicles which they allowed us to be turned over, there's different groups that get a portion of it. So we don't get the whole amount. We actually
don't?
get majority of it, but the county gets a little piece of that surplus.
What?
If it's ever sold, there's an apportionment of it. So I thought that was
We
never
made
saw
the-
that before.
We made the arrest, right?
Isn't that funny? Yeah. I never saw that. I never was aware of that, but that was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, boy, everybody's got their hand in it, huh?
Well, at least we got a good amount.
We
so
got a
still
good amount.
got a good
That's-
share.
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, resolution number 5, considering an agreement between the Village of Rybrook and KHA New York LLC, DBA Standby for Food and Catering Services at the AGP Senior Center.
Okay, and for the purpose of the resolution, I'll just call it standby.
Please.
Whereas Kevin Almashi, owner of Executive Corner Deli and Catering, who has been the current food caterer and provider at the AJP Center, Senior Center, has sold its business to a new owner, and whereas they would like to continue to provide the food service and catering service to Anthony J. Pasilpa Center under the new company name, and whereas the village would like to continue to work with Kevin Almashi and the new company Standby under the same terms and conditions as the prior agreement with Executive Corner Deli and Catering. Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposed agreement between the Village of Rybrook and Standby for food subject to modification by council. And be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign any documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So
Second.
moved.
Second.
Well, we were excited for our new caterer there at AJP, and now we're,
Just a name change at this
Yeah.
point. And
Same
they sold the
person.
business, but he still wants to maintain.
which is great, and we
Serve
thank
the
the new
center.
owner for abiding by this and sticking with us, and we look forward to working with you. Any other questions or comments?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 6, considering a request for use of village streets by the Blind Brook School District for a Halloween parade on October 31st, 2023.
Okay. Resolved that the use of Rocking Horse Trail, Dorchester Drive, and Sleepy Hollow on Tuesday, October 31st, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the 3rd annual Blind Brook School District's K through 2 Halloween parade event is hereby approved with the terms and conditions established by the Rybrook Police Department.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Motion?
Second.
Well, I will certainly be out there again this year, as I still have a student in elementary school.
In costume or not costume?
I will not be in costume, but most likely my child will be. But it was very cute last year. I have to say, it was very cute seeing them all marching. They take a lot of pride in this, so we're very excited to be part of this again. And we thank the residents who live around that area for their patience, because I know it can get a little tough when you've got that many kids marching, taking up the whole street, and they really do.
Yes.
But it's very cute.
We have to let the neighbors know. That's my only issue, because they really do block it off for quite some time.
Right,
Or if they can keep them, there's no other way out for some of the people.
right. Perhaps we can work with the school to get some signage up, at the end of this week. Just letting people know. And then maybe we can shoot out in our blast.
Yep. Sure.
And we, maybe on Monday or something, we can shoot out a blast. Any other questions, comments?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 7, and I feel like Trish and Anu should be back. No, I'm just, considering approval of a change order and a fiscal year 2022-23 general fund budget transfer and capital fund budget modification to fund the AJP roof, walkway, and boiler repairs.
Whereas the village incurred a change order for additional bracing needed for the AJP walkway project in the amount of $5,383.64, and whereas the following general fund budget transfer and capital budget modification to fund the walkway and boiler project as a fiscal year is hereby approved. There's a whole lot of transfers. Basically, it's transferring $750 into that account into the capital project account. And be it further resolved that the following capital budget be restated, and there's just a listing of the new amount of that capital project. And again, it's a change to $750. And be it further resolved, the board hereby approves the change order in the amount of $5,383.64 for the additional bracing of the AJP walkway project.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Glad that this is moving forward still. It's well underway. And we look forward to seeing the finished product.
Yep.
Any questions or comments on this?
Board has to approve change orders, and the board has to transfer
Yep.
because we're a little short in that project account.
But not by much.
Nope, not by much.
$750. Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 8, considering the approval of the fiscal year 2024 budget for the Portchester Rybrook Ambulance Corps, Inc.
Okay, whereas the Village of Rybrook has an agreement with the Portchester Rybrook Ambulance Corps for emergency medical services, in which the Village of Rybrook contributes its share of the annual budget based on a formula of 75% split equally among the 3 members and the other 25% based on population. And whereas the Portchester Rybrook EMS Services Committee, at their meeting held on October 5th, the 2024 EMS budget was adopted and includes many service and retention recommendations from the EMS study consultants, resulting in necessary expenses for this essential service. And whereas the Rybrook's annual payment share would be $412,929 to be paid in quarterly installments of $103,233. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby approves the 2024 Portchester Rybrook EMS budget of $4,426,223, resulting in a Rybrook Municipal Corp contribution totaling $412,929 for the EMS fiscal year 2024. Period.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
And I would say, it does say it in our backup material, but I'll stress this, that this was anticipated in our budget. I remember talking about this through the budget process, that their budget was going to increase significantly because of additions that they're bringing to it, but also just, again, continuing to make sure that they function as well as they do, that we are very lucky to have this service provided to the 3 communities, because so many other municipalities end up having to go outside to hire services, and that can be challenging. With this, we have retention of staff. There's, and they serve the community so well. So we thank the EMS, the PCRRB EMS.
It needs an easier name.
It does, for all that they do for our residents.
And it's been working. So this is a 5-year retention plan that we have, and it's been working. So we've been able to keep EMS staff there. They're not leaving like we were having. We're not having the difficulty in keeping people. People want to continue to come here, and at $412,000, it's an incredible value in our budget for that type of service.
It really is,
And this year also includes a service improvement on the overnight shifts. So now we have some additional support there.
right, which is phenomenal, and we should also thank you, Chris, for being so involved with this organization and so much that you do to help support them and to fight for them. You know,
Thank you.
getting them in on or having the ability to enter into the insurance, I think was
That's another one, yeah, we did. We were able to get that statewide, which is great.
yeah. So
Thank you.
thank you. Questions or comments?
Oh, awesome.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 9, considering an agreement between the Village of Rybrook and Ramboll Engineering for Brook Lane Engineering Services.
Whereas the village administrator and superintendent of public works are recommending the board approve an agreement with Ramboll America's Engineering Solutions, otherwise known as Ramboll Engineering, to provide engineering services related to flooding conditions in the Brook Lane area. And whereas Ramboll Engineering has provided an agreement and an estimated budget to perform certain engineering services to establishing stream level parameters for the warning and rain gauge system installed at the Brook Lane and Westchester Avenue culvert, and evaluating the possibility of upgrading Brook Lane street drainage at a total estimated cost of $17,000. And whereas Ramboll Engineering is familiar with this area of the Blind Brook, having completed prior studies in this location for other agencies, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby approves an agreement with Ramboll Engineering, subject to the approval of acceptable language by council, to perform certain engineering services in the Brook Lane area for an estimated cost of $17,000. And be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign any documents or agreements necessary or appropriate to accomplish the intent of the resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second,
So
please?
moved.
Second.
You know, this is just another thing that we're doing. You know, this is outside of the NRCS project, but it's something more that the village is doing to help the residents affected by the flooding. And I saw that, you know, we like the approach that Ramboll's taking to this.
And they have a lot of data for that whole Blind Brook watershed, which is
Well,
one
they
of the
certainly do
benefits. Yeah.
from the
The
work they've
resilient
done
stream
with
study.
Rye.
Yes, exactly.
And so we look forward to working with them. Any questions, comments?
That's public information, right? All the levels and what's going on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything's public, sure. And there's the stream study, I think, is even on our website, the one that
Yes,
they did for
I
the
think
prior
you said
study.
that,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 10, considering designating polling locations and hours for the village election on March 19th, 2024.
Resolved that the voting machines owned by the County of Westchester shall be used at the next village election to be held on Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. And be it further resolved that the voting machines, if they're not available, the county can authorized to go to paper ballots. And be it further resolved that the polls at each of the 9 village election districts shall be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. On that day. And be it further resolved, the polling places be hereby designated for the respective election districts as follows. District 20 is the Portchester Middle School, 21 is the Portchester Middle School, 22 is the Rybrook Firehouse, 23 Crawford Mansion, 26 Portchester Senior High School, 27 Crawford Park Mansion, 29 Crawford Park Mansion, 30 Rybrook Firehouse, and 31 Belfair Meeting House.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion?
Moved. Second.
All right, pretty straightforward. We always do this.
Mhm.
I was asked recently by a resident why we have so many polling locations.
It's a good question, but we do follow the national elections. That's where we try to keep it so people. In the past, the board is while we could consolidate election districts, the boards in the past have always wanted to keep them the same as the national elections, so people know where to go.
Right. So do we not set the national election?
No, that's not done by us.
It's not done by us.
No.
Got it.
So the village has just chosen to follow the
And I
lead of
think
the other
that's
ones.
the right move. Questions or comments?
Nope.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 11, considering approval of the minutes for the meeting held on June 27th, 2023.
Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting held on June 27th, 2023.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, that passes. Administrator's report.
Okay, I do have a few items. It's been a weird time because it seems like every Saturday it seems to be raining,
That it does. Not this
this
weekend.
week.
but not this weekend. We refuse to let it rain this weekend.
This weekend will be the first, I think the last weekend to not have rain was 8 weeks
Labor Day,
ago.
Labor Day.
2 months ago, practically.
But we're all looking forward to this weekend. This is one of the most fun events, I think, for a lot of people to go to. It's a lot of laughs. We have the annual Halloween dog parade. So bring your dogs in costume and parade, and there's judging contests, and there'll be other games and things to do. Also, the Humane Society will also be there as well to be a part of the whole event. So there's prizes. It's a lot of fun. That's at 10:30 this Saturday, and that's followed by our first trunk or treat event, which is going to be from 12:30 to 1:30. We're starting a little small this year versus opening it up with all kinds of vehicles. We're going to do it with village vehicles. So we've issued kind of challenges internally with the departments, and we're decorating some village vehicles, and people are going to come out there, and we'll do it in the parking lot of Pine Ridge. So we're kind of starting it off small, but it should be a lot of fun for everybody, so the residents can come out and enjoy the day. The Rye Brook Fit Walk is on Saturday, November 4th, beginning at 9:30 at the Ridge Street School, and that goes through the whole Country Ridge area, and that's a wonderful event, followed by mini golf from 12 to 4 p.m. over at Pine Ridge Park. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
Plenty of time to do both.
Yep, plenty of time to do both, yes. And some of these we're doubling up on because of all the rain we've had. We're just
That's
trying
quite all right.
to fit it in.
Activity is activity.
That's right. Get people out in the community together. The National Resource Conservation Service program on Brook Lane, Wyman North, and Rock Ridge is going very well. We like that they've given the village more control over the process now through the recovery program, so that's going very well. So we have our appraisers already sent letters out to the areas. They're setting up the in-person appraisals to go through the homes with the residents. The residents, I know, many have called. They're very excited seeing that this is all moving forward on a good pace now. So they're very happy about that. And also, I want to thank Greg for going and coordinating the Bowman Avenue cleanup. That was something that the board listed as a priority because that's such an area that gets so much garbage seems to start the day after we go in there and clean up with the groups. But I know Greg also wanted to thank some of the people that turned out this past weekend. We were very pleased on not in the most wonderful weather
Now I'm
for
amazed
people
that
to
you
come
didn't
out.
have a rain date.
So thanks to Greg for coordinating and being out there. But I know Greg wanted to say a few words.
Yes, good evening. And yes, we did have less than ideal weather, and we did discuss potential rain dates. So the original idea was that some sites were going to go to October 14th, but because it's rained like the last 7 consecutive Saturdays, we didn't want to push it back and risking that we would go through the same thing all over again. But surprisingly enough, we had a lot of volunteers, which I was surprisingly shocked in a good way. But I just want to thank everyone again who did help put this together, because this truly is a team effort, starting with the town all the way down to our volunteers. So again, I just want to start off thanking with all of our town partners who help coordinate this event along. And we participate at Bowman, but also Portchester, City of Rye, Village of Mamaroneck, and the town itself also does their own respective sites. I also want to start thanking with 800 Westchester, because when we do clean that road, we do block it off for safety reasons. But 800 Westchester is always nice enough to allow them to use that private road. I know I can admit I'm certainly guilty of using it at my leisure at certain points, but we all should remember it is a private road, and they do not have to allow us to use it, but they do. So I do want to start thanking them. I just want to thank our village staff, including our Rye Brook police, again, who are manning there for a couple hours to make sure that we are safely being able to pick up garbage. We had Sergeant Chris Rue and Police Officer Paul Apposey on Saturday helping us, as well as our DPW crew. They help out with pretty much every event that we have, and they wouldn't be a success without their efforts, starting with our DPW foreman, Paul Vinci, who's always great coordinating the crew, as well as Mark Goldstein and Michael Lanzi with the laborers that were able to assist on Saturday. And lastly, I want to thank all of our volunteers. Is that we had an unexpectedly huge turnout, and that is in large part in credit to both the school districts. Teacher Julie Hensley, who is the staff liaison for Roots and Shoots, was great in bringing out pretty much the entire club to help us. as well as in the Portchester School District, their key club, which is Santos Avila, who's the guidance counselor there, and Elizabeth Messina is one of the teachers there, who are their staff liaison. So I want to thank the three of them for getting their students out to help us, because that was a huge help. And we also had a gentleman come from the city of Rye with his son, so that was actually an unexpected
How
surprise.
many people did you have, Greg?
Probably, honestly, I didn't count exactly, but we had in the high teens.
Excellent.
Yeah, which is not what we were expecting, because again, it
Given
rained.
the weather.
Yeah, it rained on us the whole time. I mean, I
That
was
was awful.
drenched from head to toe, but it was definitely worth it because, as the administrator Bradbury said, that road always is dirty, as pretty much probably from the moment we leave there. There's people putting garbage there, so it's definitely a huge hotspot that we're always happy to hit to make sure that it's as clean as possible. And we even had also our town supervisor came, Gary Zuckerman, who stayed with us the entire time. So I want to thank him as well for coming and braving the rain with us. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the gist. We got a lot of garbage. I did post on our social media sites if anyone wants to come check it out. But definitely we'll be looking forward to the next sustainability event.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Great, thank
Greg.
you.
Anything else in the administrator's report?
Nope, that's all. For
All right, then moving on to old business. Although I think this is really new business.
New old business.
New
Well,
old bu-
new program
old-
with old business. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't I kind of summarize why it's on the agenda?
Yeah,
You want me to
please.
do that? Okay. So a couple years ago, we
For
had.
the record, this is electric vehicle charging stations.
Thank you. So a few years ago, if you recall, we spent some time going out, meeting with in different sites with some of the vendors. There was some really good rebates that were out there, and we picked locations, and those locations are in the backup here on the agenda page. But basically, we got all the way to where we were ready to kind of start the program, and the state funding stopped, so we weren't able to continue. So we had to put the brakes on and kind of put it on the shelf. So now what we've learned is Westchester County is giving a substantial discount as well as other discounts that are available through NYSERDA, Con Ed, and then with the county, it looks like almost all the funding for level 2 chargers would be available for reimbursement for installation, for use. We'd own them, set the rates, get the software. And the county is having a meeting on it on Thursday, and they're asking people to come with locations. We've already met with them. Greg and Michael's already met with them to get a head start a few weeks ago, so to show them the locations. But we are looking for feedback to make sure the board still wants to proceed with this, and if the locations we've identified are still appropriate. So these are, again, level 2 chargers. There's NYSERDA discount for the charger itself. There's a Con Ed discount for wiring and the engineering cost, and Westchester County is providing 50% off of all the work. We're going to learn more about it on Thursday. Don't have all the answers yet,
Okay.
but we want to make sure that this is still something the board's interested in. We have received letters from residents, I think 3 or 4, saying if you're going to do it with the DC fast chargers. Much more expensive venture that we don't have funded. It's a lot more expensive, and they're not eligible for all the discounts. So
Why wouldn't that's a good question to ask them when you go to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't they do that to enable more people? That was the gist of all the letters.
yeah, we asked the county too, and they said nope, they're only doing the level 2s, which is typical for municipal lots, but they are the slower chargers. There's no doubt. But we did ask the questions. We called the company to find out, what is included, what's not included, and Greg talked to them today. So the NYSERDA rebate for the charger itself is not eligible for the DC fast chargers, and all the county pricing isn't available. So if you're going to do that, it's going to cost. There's more infrastructure that has to be done, higher charger. More work that has to be done to provide the juice that's needed for those chargers. And there's no county pricing, so you'd have to go out and probably do
No,
a
it just
bid
doesn't
unless we could find like a piggybacking contract or something like that cooperative agreement. We wouldn't be able to just go out and just pick a company and do it.
Right. I
So
understand.
that's
Right,
something
and
that we'd be doing on our own.
Short-sighted, though. That's my only.
I don't know. I'm out of my field comfort level. I'm going to go learn more about it on Thursday. It's your typical chargers for municipal lots, but they are the slower of the chargers. But I know we can't afford the fast chargers.
No,
So
I understand
the question is,
that
do you do it at
completely.
all or not?
Chris?
What are the ones that are at Crawford Park?
Level
Those are the
2s.
slow- Those are level 2s.
And who provides those? Do we know?
Who provides them? The count. I mean, they did it through some of the rebate programs.
They did it, they hopped on it the second the last
It was a
round
different
came
program that
through.
they jumped on.
And
This
the only
is by far the best rebate programs we've seen because it's covering 100% of the cost.
Being ignorant on the subject, how long does it take using a level 2 charger to charge a typical car?
You're asking the wrong person. On
6 hours, about 6 hours
And
from
that begs the
zero.
question whether it's even worth doing it.
That's a choice. But I
think
don't
it's
know
worth,
if you're
I think
you're
it's
not.
worth attending the session
Yeah,
and
no,
learning
that
more
for sure.
about it.
But,
But I
6
think
hours,
I
who's gonna
think
use it?
exactly. I think it makes perfect because they'll get some. It's like when you fill up a tank, you don't always fill up a whole tank. You can fill up
You're kind of
partial
just-
to
you're
get
topping
you the
off.
next
$5
one.
in your tank.
You're topping off. You're topping off.
Topping it up.
Right? No, I'm not ahead of you on that one. But I read the letters from the people that in the village that said if you're going to do it, but. I understand why you're saying we're not doing it, but my point is, why can't we convince the people that are funding it? Because
These
it
are-
makes no sense to put in such slow chargers
But again,
when
if
the
this is-
when the goal is to.
I don't know enough about what
the-
the delta is in price increase for them, so that's something I'd have to learn more about.
Okay, so I
Right,
guess
and
we
we
have to
had
convince
talked
them
about-
to do it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it costs them so much more. That might be the reason. I don't know.
And the last time,
The
I guess
labor's the labor.
One of the things that I'd be most interested in personally in looking at it is what programs can we use to get the infrastructure in place because we know it's coming. So to me, does the infrastructure for this underground and bringing it to the service to it, does that in any way help us to
Enable.
different types of chargers later on if
right,
we
and
want
that
to?
was
As
going
long
to be
as-
That's
my
one of the
question.
questions
That was
we
going
want
to
to
be my
find out.
question of whether we can provide
Yeah.
the correct power
And then
to that area.
maybe start with level 2, but
through
if you're
this.
swap
and
them
then
later,
upgrade, exactly. Well, that but
when
because-
another
that's one of the things I'd
project-
like to learn more about.
Exactly, which is
program
why you
comes
have
out.
to go there. But the other issue is if we're giving up and it's not possible to swap it out, we're giving up all the space that we've identified as the best possible locations.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can't swap it, what do you do?
Those are all good questions.
Okay. And I will leave it to you to.
Okay, and I'll
get
bring
the
I'll bring back and share the information that we learned.
Excellent,
we
thank
had,
you.
we had also talked about Pine Ridge
Yeah.
as a potential location. I understand it's a larger cost because it's farther out, but if we're getting reimbursed for it,
That's a plus, and that's
And
one of the
then
things.
the
That's
other
one of
thing
the other
about
questions I have.
Ridge-
Will they cover to that distance?
Right.
Because I know when we looked at this last time, we were talking about
Yeah,
doing
high
a
risk, yeah.
bump out space off of the
on the
driveway.
street. I know we had talked
Yeah.
about that or a bump out space. It would be nice to have it back, but I also think of Pine Ridge Park as, when we look at these places, somewhere, Garibaldi and Pine Ridge are probably the two places where people will be parked for longer amounts of time.
And maybe
Anyway,
yeah,
because
Garibaldi makes
they're-
sense
they're,
too. Yeah, like you
either
said.
playing, a sport,
Got a
or
couple hours
attending-
there.
That's the idea.
a sport.
Village Hall, they're not coming here normally for
There's-
more than
right, there should be
20 minutes.
Is there a limit to the amount that they will do? How many spots?
Not that I'm aware of, but they said they generally cover. They're not giving it saying we're covering 100%. So I think what I want to see is the devil in the details. I want to find
Right,
out,
what they're
like Pine Ridge, are they really going to cover all the way back to the back of the lot or not, or are they just going to do it in the front? These are all things to unfold. We are just starting this venture,
Okay.
so we want to find out from the board: is this something you still are interested in,
Yes.
and what is the level of interest? I think
High
I'm
level
getting
of
good
interest.
feedback.
We have a lot of people in our village who have EV cars that need to have this.
Right. I
And it's
think-
not meant to replace their overnight charging.
No, it's when
meant
they're
to
going there.
give them a boost while they're stopped and going somewhere.
Right, and also starting to provide the necessary infrastructure.
Yes, because it's
for
coming.
for electric vehicles in
If
our
it does
public
that.
spaces.
If it does that,
That's what we got to find
Right,
out.
and that's what we're gonna find out.
Okay. I
And
think
we're
I need
also
to.
doing it at Village Hall, aren't we?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
We had 2 spaces allocated, 2 double chargers. I think we had allocated last time.
So we're still not sure about the locations yet, right? We're gonna.
No, we had
Well,
the locations
I
identified.
did, but
if
then
it
I
worked.
read all this one email and it's kind of like, well, maybe those aren't great. Maybe they should be over there or over there.
yeah, but these were
vetted.
locations that were identified through a process the last time, and we'll still look at other options.
Yeah.
But
Right, we're not tied to those
Our
locations.
major parking lots.
Like there's one spot we thought we might want to add, which is at the highway garage. Now that we have overnight parking there,
Right.
that might be a spot that people could do. You know, I don't know, because you also have a system where we take the first, whatever it is, 10 people in there.
Right.
They don't have an electric vehicle, we're wasting a spot.
Yes.
Right.
So that's one of the other things we're weighing.
And then currently our only the level 1, I guess you call that, the high rate charging stations. There's one over here on the Parkway, on the Merritt.
The DC fast
That's a
charger.
DC fast
DCFC,
charger.
yeah.
That's the closest one around here, I
Tesla
think.
one, I think. Right?
Yeah, right. But you can use, I think you can use any car there.
They say that most of those are universal.
Yes.
But I don't know the speed. But I've also learned that some of the, Greg and I learned
That's
that
like
some
20
of the
minutes, I
vehicles, though,
think.
can't use those chargers, can't use the fast chargers.
Oh,
Some of
can't
the
even
electric
use them.
vehicles. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh, you see?
Yeah.
Well, more
Why
and
would
more
they make it
manufacturers are
universal?
adopting the
They,
Tesla
they're
standard.
they're gonna
Yeah.
be.
Right.
It
But-
makes a lot more sense.
The problem has been, as more cars use the faster chargers, there's more of a line to use the faster chargers.
Right.
Right, I'm sure down here in the Hutch, they're doing the same thing. They're gonna put fast chargers
Yes,
down
I'm
there.
sure that's
Yeah.
what they're putting.
Because
down.
I saw them run the services across
Sure,
the
'cause
highway.
you're not stopping there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
What a horrible thought.
So, yes.
Okay, I think I have the feedback. No action is
agree.
needed. We just want
Right.
to
Yeah, that's
make sure
good.
we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's
Good.
everybody's doing it.
All right. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, the next meetings for the Board of Trustees are November 14th and November 28th. And hope everyone has a very safe Halloween.
November
Yes.
28th is right before Thanksgiving.
And good night.
Good night. November 14th, right?